Jack, hey, congratulations on the Magic Flute.
Thank you so much.
And hey, thank you for taking the time out of I know you have a very busy schedule with Shadow and Bone right now, but this is a delightful movie that also needs to be promoted out there. So,
oh, thank you. That means the world. No, it's my pleasure. Totally.
So we have to ask is what initially drew you to this project?
Oh, yeah, great. I think it was years ago that I auditioned for this. It feels like it's been such a long process. And when I auditioned for it, what really inspired me was Florian, the director, had a very clear message as to why he wanted to make a film like this. He wanted to introduce people who might not have gone to the opera or might feel a little bit intimidated by it, to feel like that they have access to it, and that it's a world that would welcome them in. That was something that meant a lot to me. Theatre is a huge part of my life, and anything that sort of can help gain support for the arts in that way, I think is amazing. Also, what a beautiful cat.
Oh, when camera's on, she tries to be here. But anyways. So your background originally is in theater and opera?
No, not opera, but in theatre, definitely. Yeah, that's where I trained, and yeah, what sort of feels like home in a way to me. Opera, not so much. My parents are both they're both musicians, and they both deal with sort of music in the community. So my mum teaches piano and runs a community choir, and my dad conducts brass bands. So it was always around me, and my mum loves the opera. And we'd have like posters for different productions on the walls that used to also terrify me because they're so heightened. And like as a kid, I remember seeing a poster of the Queen of the Night, like with the Hall of Stars, and not knowing what that was, but being very intrigued by it. So it does feel sort of full circle for me, that I get to do a film that's about theatre, that's about opera. Yeah, that means a lot.
So Not Fooling Anyone, is that really you playing the piano in the film?
It is. That is me playing the piano in the film. And actually, like miming playing the piano to yourself playing the piano I found so hard. I don't know how people manage to pull that off in films. It's so difficult. So I remember when they said that there was going to be a scene where Tim plays the piano with Sophie. Because I also played the piano. My mum taught me piano when I was growing up, and I said, like, when I was in school, sometimes I would like sit in the music room and play the piano with my friends, and we'd sing together and sing stupid things or make covers of songs, whatever. And I knew that this moment in the film that's between Tim and Sophie, where he's trying to impress her, I wanted to make sure that it felt like that, like what that feels like to share music like that with someone. So they were really kind, and Martin Stock, the composer of the film, was really generous, because what he let me do was Neve, who plays Sophie, and I went into the music studio. They pressed record, and we sort of improv'd this cover of I'll Be There, and then refined it a little bit more, and tried to sort of make something that was a little bit more finessed. But it really came from an improvised sort of cover moment, and I hope that comes across in the film. Even if it doesn't, it was a really special moment for me.
I find it refreshing to introduce a more modern song like "I'll Be There" into a Mozart. I mean, yeah. we're talking about a unique film that your character has to jump between two different worlds. How did that experience going, from these two different type of worlds, modern and then fantasy?
And actually going back on that last question, because that's part of the reason, Tim exists in a world that it's like the music is completely different. Do you know what I mean? And it's challenging because the opera, and the libretto by Schikaneder and the music by Mozart, it's so expansive and so heightened, and that's what it's meant to do. It's meant, it's when it's live on stage and it's being communicated to people who are so far away in huge, expansive opera houses, huge costumes, and beautiful arias with like painting huge like lyrical pictures. But in a film, when the camera's here and the things that we're talking about, you know, falling in love, seeing a portrait of someone for the first time, all these huge thoughts. It is challenging. And I think what I loved about that aspect of the film was the ambition of it. Like, and there have been opera adaptations to film before, and brilliant ones, but it's really exciting and challenging. And I think it's lovely to see someone else's idea of what that could be with Flo. And he was very clear about what he wanted. He wanted Tim and Sophie and the sort of real world characters to be grounded in some sort of, you know, heightened-esque realism, that they were just average teenagers. They weren't cool, like Tim can't be cool. But he escapes into fantasy for a while. And what that always means for me is it feels like a big metaphor. It feels like what Tim gets to do is explore why we all jump into, you know, opera, theatre, film, music, whatever your escapism is. You go to distract yourself from what's happening in your real life for a bit, or you go to learn lessons to then apply in real life. Tim does both of those things. So jumping between those two worlds in this film feels original, it feels exciting, but definitely ambitious. It's a tricky thing to marry together.
I mean, it's funny is because the fantasy type of settings is extraordinary. I love these type of stories. And for your career as of late, I want to say your upcoming Shadow and Bone, you done the Magic Flute. I think you were in an episode of The Witcher. I mean,
I was 60 seconds.
But this is still all fantasy. I mean,
Yeah.
what is it like, you know, when as an actor entering these worlds, and not to mention you're acting, I don't know what kind of sets or CGI or what you are facing.
Yeah. Oh wow. I think I mean, I love it too. I'm a big fantasy fan. I love finding like new worlds and what they would look like and what people would sound like. All of these things. It's so exciting to me. And I feel like with that genre, departments really get to go wild with ideas, you know, and both the Magic Flute and the Shadow and Bone, I think, are blessed with such amazing art departments and costume teams and hair and makeup and creating these universes that for an actor then it's just delightful to like step into and play around. The Magic Flute was very much my first sort of feature film experience as well. So stepping onto a set like that for the first time was intimidating. And I was lucky to have a cast who are so experienced. So they were able to sort of give me a lot of advice on that. But, you know, running away from snakes that you can't see, and you have to just completely give so much trust in your director and the team, like that they know what it's going to look like and that they're able to communicate that with you. It's so much fun. It's such a fun place to exist in. And yeah, I'd love to do more.
Most excellent. And one more thing before I let you go is, tell me how much preparation you had with the singing roles into the Magic Flute. I mean, I'm not an opera singer, but I can't imagine this is an easy feat.
Well, I'm not an opera singer either, and I could never profess to being able to do it like, you know, the people have sung it before in the opera houses. And I think ultimately that was the lesson that for me, it was to not try to compare myself to that. I had practically a really fantastic coach called Sam Kenyon, who worked with a lot of us in the film to get our voices to a place that was like workable, that they would serve us in that way. And I've been singing a lot. I really enjoy singing, but singing on that scale really, really terrifies me because I understand what it means. I understand what expectations are. I understand what people who love Mozart and love the opera might think about someone like me singing the music. And inside my head, that's a really tough thing to contend with. Ultimately, the journey for me was about getting out of my head and into a place that was useful on a set to work with. And that was also about trust, to trust that Flo was telling a story that involved me playing this character and singing this music, and that I was sort of allowed to and was meant to be there and could work with it the way I wanted to. And in hindsight now, when I watch it, I'm proud because what I get to experience or play with is the idea that Tim is just a person who gets to experience this opera for the first time. He's not an opera singer. He is training to be, I guess he enjoys singing. He wants to be a singer, but he's getting to grips with this material for the first time and gets to sort of sound like he is too. And that's pretty cool to me. I've got a fun fact about that too, though. For the German release of the film, the German language release of the film, especially because the opera is originally written in German, they asked me if I would provide the German singing voice for Tim. So I have an incredible dubber in German who plays my speaking voice, but every time Tim sings in the film, it's me doing my best German, as well as singing in opera as well. So it was contending with a lot of challenging things, but I mean, it was a lot of fun too.
Well, I'm glad this is your first feature film experience. I mean, this is a terrific one. I watched the film at least 3 times already. I just love these type of films. But don't worry, I'll watch Shadow and Bone at least a couple of times too.
Hey, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack, for speaking to us. Hopefully we get to do this again. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Have a good day.
Hey, you too. Bye.